WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Communications Channel 16 proudly present the We Should Know Show, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative. Now, here's your host, JW Simmons, as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for being with us today. My name is JW Simmons. I'm your host. The name of the show is We Should Know. We're talking about a subject that affects everybody in some way or the other, either now or sometime in the future, and that's education. And I know several people that know a lot about education. None of those are as schooled as the man we have with us today, Dr. Wesley Johnson. He's superintendent of the district City Schools here in Clinton, North Carolina. Wesley, thank you for coming in and having a conversation today.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be with you and share with the conversation.
Absolutely. Let's start out. I want to start out in that particular field that now, kind of in the now moment of sometimes it's a little bit cloudy. And I'm just going to read a headline from News and Observer, a recent headline from News and Observer. In fact, March the 12th. It says, "How could North Carolina schools be impacted by a shutdown of the U.S. Department of Education, ? What do we need to know?" And that's the starting point today. We are not only in uncharted times, but I think unanticipated times. When you sense the seat you're in, I could possibly go to up to Raleigh and get up with Superintendent Mo Green and get a perspective, but I like to get the kind of the battle on the front lines perspective. What is your sense of, number one, what's going on? What is your sense for what predictabilities that you have to make? How do you kind of prepare the ship for this course?
Well, those are all good questions.
Anyone's a good choice.
I like the title of the article because I'm not sure what the answer is. We are making preparations for our new budget for next year, our 25-26 budget. To be honest with you, we're not making a lot of whole-scale changes. There will be, some adjustments. One of the things that's affecting Clinton City Schools positively is that we have a growing number of students into what we call our ADM. ADM stands for Average Daily Membership. So that basically means the number of students that are in your building. So we're one of the few systems in Eastern North Carolina that is gaining students. And because of that, North Carolina uses what we call an allotment formula to determine the number of positions that you have for teachers, teacher assistants, instructional assistants, so forth and so on. So in Clinton City, because our average daily membership, our ADM, has increased, we are looking to gain positions for the 2025-26 school year. Now, getting back to the question that you asked me, because of the unknown and not knowing what the federal side is, we are not really jumping to put bodies into those positions. So we're really going to kind of more like a wait and see approach to determine how much federal money we may lose based on the shutdown in Washington, how that's going to come down, because I think the word they keep using is block grants, and what those are going to look like. And so those are some unknown questions that we kind of have to have a wait and see approach toward.
One of the things that kind of really fascinates me is I came into the city today and driving down these beautiful streets here in the city of Clinton. On each side of the street is pictures, 2025 school year. And I look at each one of those pictures, and as I'm doing that, I'm seeing my future. I'm seeing the future of people in this community and other communities. That graduation year is an example why what you do and those teachers and others are so critical. We are generating our future. We're shaping our future. With that said, I had a recent conversation with some supervisors from out of town that are with public schools, and one of them asked this question: are you comfortable with the education decision-making process as it relates to public schools, moving away from the federal level to the local level? And the immediate response was yes. I think we can do a better job in supplying the needs of our students independently. What would be your response to that?
Yeah, I agree with that, Mr. JW. I think, when we hear about public education across the country, there are some people with questions. Of course, we see that really on both sides of the political aisle. And then you move down to the state level, and there's still people at the state level that have questions. But where we have shown the tremendous amount of research is that local people feel very well about the public education in their local districts. Now, a lot of them are tied to those districts because maybe they went to school there. They realized that they got a good education from those schools. And so a lot of your locals are happy with their public schools and that they feel like their public schools are educating the citizenry well, just kind of like your comment when you were going by seeing those photos. And so, I've spent 27 years in Sampson County, 20 in Sampson County, and almost 7 in Clinton City. And I would say that the majority of people in Sampson County and Clinton City schools feel positively about the education system of both Sampson County schools and Clinton City schools. So I think that we're doing a great job there with addressing the current needs. It is those unknown questions about at the state level and the federal level. And a lot of this just gets expounded in the media, but locally, I think most people feel like the school systems are doing well and are educating our folks well.
As I looked at a little bit deeper with the federal level control, there was something in there that I picked up the thread that this whole effort to have a national kind of oversight, should I say, of education was a result of an attempt to equalize the playing field for education throughout the country. For example, if you graduated, you got the same level as somebody graduated from California. But is that not an unrealistic expectation in the sense of based on what resources you have, what expertise you have? Is it a magnet school? Is it not? All of those things come to play. And is there ever even the possibility of having the same kind of opportunity in one place as another place?
When you talk about that, the thing that came to my mind was Leandro.
Absolutely.
So Leandro, of course,
it's still on the windshield.
Leandro was a suit that was actually started before I became a public educator.
Absolutely.
And it was to address inequities in Hoke County. And the case has still never been finalized here in North Carolina.
And it's still out there.
It's still out there. And so to give a direct answer to your question, no, I don't know that there can ever be consistency in all public schools in all regions of North Carolina or across the United States, because as you note, there are differences in the backgrounds and makeups of the people in those communities. Of course, if you are closer to areas that have major universities, so if you're from the Chapel Hill area, you're from Orange County or Wake County, there are numerous universities in those individuals. And a lot of times the people that graduate from those universities stay close to there.
Sure.
And so it is difficult to ever see there being complete equity in and amongst the public education of individuals in North Carolina or in the United States.
With that same thread in mind that we're talking about, when we look at Sampson County schools, vis-a-vis Clinton City schools in the same county, 2 school districts, 2 administrative platforms, 2 boards of education, would that not also apply that in the city school may be a bit different than if you live in a part of the rural landscape, if nothing else, just in the sense of getting in and getting to the school?
Yeah, I agree with that, JW. I mean, I do think that demographically, there's a lot of similarities between the students and the makeups of both communities. I mean, we share very, very similar things. But there are some minute differences. I mean, like for instance, in Clinton City recently, we have had a large influx of Haitian Creole families. I don't know that has, kind of dispersed out to Sampson County now. So of course we have to have some resources for not only our Latino families, but now also for our Haitian Creole families as well, that I'm not sure that the county schools has. But yes, there's going to be some minute differences, even between the Lakewood, the Midway, the Union, and the Hopton communities.
That's
They're
right.
all a little bit different. And so, what we try to do as superintendents is to find individuals to run those districts and schools that have similarities to those, to those demographic groups that make up those schools.
I think the important thing for folks to understand from what you're saying is that not only do you recognize that, but I suspect both you and your teachers recognize that they're dealing with that kind of platform, and they have to, they have to adjust the throttle occasionally to deal with that.
Oh, I think that's a great example. I mean, yes, and you have to understand the community that you represent, and you have to have that in mind when you're making decisions. I mean, when we get school board policies that come down from a group called the North Carolina School Boards Association, they are based on laws that are generated by legislators. But our school board has the ability to adjust those school board policies to match the community that sends their kids to our school system. You have to do that. If you don't do that, you're not going to be around very long. So if you want to be a board member, if you want to be a superintendent, you're going to have to change the throttle, shift the throttle as needed, so that you can accommodate the differences for your community.
Well, that's a perfect way to kind of end this part of the show. When we come back, I want to kind of dig a bit deeper in the whole idea of funding sources and talk about that. I think one of the things I've picked up on and just, doing some reading and talking with educators, that becomes the paramount picture when you look at it, is funding sources and what will federal sources draw up. What does that mean? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're talking with the Superintendent of the Clinton City School District. We'll be back in a moment.
Welcome to Cork and Brew Roseboro, where you can enjoy your favorite coffee, fraps, smoothies, bakery items, sandwiches, and select beer and wines while reconnecting with friends and family. Sit down and enjoy the experience. Come on by and give us a try.
How can your friend save you money? It's easy. Refer a relative, coworker, neighbor, or friend to Star Communications. Friend signs up for high-speed internet service. Friend's new account is confirmed. Friend gives your name to our service representative as the one who referred them to Star. You receive a $30 internet credit. It's just that simple. And even better, receive a $30 internet credit for every referral that results in a new confirmed account. High-speed internet from Star Communications. Refer a friend today.
At the Reedy Mark, we take pride in a unique, distinguished customer experience. We specialize in handcrafted cocktails, allocated bourbons, as well as gourmet signature food items exclusive to our menu at the Reedy Mark in Roseboro.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know It's on air. JW Simmons here, your host. We're talking with Dr. Wesley Johnson, District Schools Superintendent for the City of Clinton. Wesley, as you talked about in the first part of the show, you've basically experienced about everything a public school system has got to offer within the setting, should I say, a more rural environment, to include Sampson County, to include now the City of Clinton, understanding the administrative level, understanding the classroom level, and you just, as the old saying goes, you're the soldier that came up through the ranks. So sitting here today and you see this, this picture that's being painted, and at some point in time, hyperbole maybe we'll say it, that this federal level is going to no longer be there. What is your first thoughts about that as it relates to funding? Because a lot of what I can understand from public schools, a lot of funding has come down from the federal level to support what is considered significant critical infrastructure programs.
Right. Yeah. That's the first thing that my mind went to when you said federal level.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of was funding. Any school district's a little bit different depending on the percentage of federal funding that applies to their district, but most are somewhere between 13 and 19%. So when you think federal funds, you think between, like I said, close to 20% of your overall funding being federal funding. And so depending on what your total allocation is, if it's $30, $50 million, I mean, to lose 20% of that is big. And so trying to figure out what you might have to cut if some kind of massive drop were to happen, it's a little daunting. But I don't know that is going to happen because, as I said in the first segment, there's conversations about there being block grants to the state.
Correct.
So then I think what you have to think about is, how does your state support its public education? And that's a whole different question that you and I would have to, to talk about and discuss.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things is that one of the big aspects in a general term is there's this effort to reduce the financial size of federal government. At some point in time, the sense is that those grants that may come to the states may be much smaller, may be at some point in time going forward extinguished. What would that mean not only to the state, but the local level? The conversation builds itself around the local entities will need to look after their schools and the maintenance and support of those schools. And I'm knowing that, like the county schools, we've got one public school looking at, being built, which is a multi-million-dollar operation. You're looking at a multi-million-dollar operation just to replace a top in the school. Does that give you pause?
Well, it does. It does. Federally, a lot of what we spend our money on are additional resources for the school districts. For example, a big program is called Title I.
Yeah.
And Title I is for our students that have shown some difficulty in learning. So, and then also for our students who and families who have low socioeconomic levels. So the additional Title I funding supports are supposed to help us get back to what we talked about in the first segment to normalize or equalize the education that is available in these other districts that don't have as many students from these low socioeconomic levels. So if Title I funds were to be adjusted, that would be some significant thoughts from the superintendent level and my cabinet and board trying to determine how to make those funds back up. Other things that pays for are exceptional children services. So students with exceptional needs. But now that includes students who have maybe some intellectual deficiencies. But EC also is for AIG, academically and intellectually gifted. That falls under the EC umbrella. So if you think about all the supports that we offer with EC teachers, exceptional children's teachers, AIG teachers, some other things that the federal monies provide are money for your cafeterias, for your breakfast programs, your lunch programs. Currently in Clinton City Schools, all of our students eat free. So every single child that is in our school district, we have a CEP grants, what it's called. All of our students eat free. Doesn't matter if you're from one of these lower socioeconomic families or if your parents are both doctors at the local hospital. Everyone has free breakfast and free lunch available. So to think about those types of programs that could potentially be cut, I'll give you a great example. We've already had one that was cut. So we have a program that we have here that it's called sort of kind of like a farm to table approach.
Yes.
So our child nutrition department receives funding, and then we develop relationships with local growers to get fresh fruits and vegetables for our kids to eat. Mm-hmm. That grant has already been extinguished.
Exactly.
So we are no longer have the availability to reach out to get fresh fruits and vegetables from our local farmers to provide these as options for our students in Clinton City Schools.
One of the things that in this conversation that comes to mind is something that I picked up on, is that there's an expectation that exists, and you just went through a litany of expectations. They are there. The food sources. We saw what happened during COVID a couple of years ago when schools opened, the cafeterias did long enough to literally hand out lunch to students, because the quote was printed was that if we don't do this, that child may not have lunch. Have we created a system of entitlement that is not enduring, that is not going to last, that could not last? And how did we get to that point that if we don't feed children through the government, then we have an issue? There are those that say we've got more of a bigger problem in the sense of the expectation of people that have children and what their responsibilities are.
Right.
This is a broad threshold here now. So I'm not trying to create any false image, but I want you to kind of clarify it for us and help us understand these. The Christian side in my heart is whatever I need to do to help those children is there, but then the financial budgetary side goes, wait a minute, is that sustainable?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, that's a big question. And the good thing about Clinton and our local community is we have a lot of support and a support networks of churches, sure, religious organizations that provide options for our families that are in need. The one thing that comes to my mind as you were talking is, and I just assisted with it the other day, is our Backpack Buddies program.
Absolutely.
So we have a group of churches, the Rotary Group, lots of churches that provide sources of food for our students on the weekend. Because like you were saying, if school shuts down, some of our students may not have some options to have food on the table. So Backpack Buddies, we have it at our 3 elementary schools. Then we have 2 pantries at our middle school and our high school, where local organizations, local churches, they come together, groups. They stuff these Ziploc bags with additional resources. So I think that our community would pitch in and help out if some type of major resource was lost like that. And I don't think that our child nutrition program is just going to vanish. Mm-hmm. But to see programs cut like that local fruits and vegetables program that I was talking about, I know this happened at the county schools, so I'm fixing to mention this one. Didn't happen to me. I didn't have this grant, but in the county schools, they had a grant for some teacher retention and some things that they were doing. They lost that whole grant. Mm-hmm. They were doing some things with their beginning teachers. At some universities like UNC Charlotte, East Carolina, they lost some teacher retention grants. And so again, it's been very difficult to find individuals across this state and really across the globe that want to make education and public education a part of their career. And to start cutting programs like that leaves me a little question on how are we going to get people to come in to want to be in the education field if they're not going to have these resources available to them, like mentor teachers, and those types of things.
And that opens a whole nother threshold I want to cross in the next part of the show. But that idea of funding and allocation goes far beyond just the home and the kind of the nitty gritty part of of survival, so to speak. The sad reality to me is when we look at the development of economic programs and development of work-related programs and the parlay that you have with the community college system, and that's throughout the state of North Carolina, is that the public schools has literally opened a pathway for employability, for skills training that is not any way tied to any academic achievement. It's tied to the ability to do something. Are we getting a response to that, or is that something people just don't get that is intentionally put together and intentionally for the purpose of giving people a job.
Oh, absolutely. I kind of know your.
I get a bit passionate about that.
Well, I know your previous history.
Yeah, exactly.
I was kind of hoping we were going in that direction, but yeah, I mean, of course, our CTE programs and the relationships that we have developed with not only our job market but the community college is a plus. I had a conversation actually before I came here with a gentleman who was considering a move from where his child is currently at back to the public schools, and I was sharing with him about things such as CCP classes. That stands for College and Career Program, where our students at the high school level can start taking classes at the community college. Right now, and they're during their junior and senior year, there is legislation to push that down to the sophomore year. What does that do? How does it assist us? How does it assist our local families? Well, we have plenty of students now who graduate from Clinton City Schools, from Sampson County Schools, who also have 2-year degrees when they graduate because they've taken those CCP classes. So they'll graduate with their diploma. They'll also have a 2-year degree. And how does that save us money? Because if you're going to go off to a 4-year university, no longer are you going to have to be at that university for 4 years. It's probably going to be 2 years. You've just saved yourself big money.
Hold that thought. I want to pick up on that when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're talking about education. Some of the most important things may happen in your life. We'll be back in a moment.
At Fisher's, it's not just about fashion. It's about exceptional service. Experience top-notch customer care and find your perfect look. Visit Fisher's today and feel the difference.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
If you run a business, you need sales. To get sales, you need customers. To get customers, you need exposure. Let our team of experts craft and produce the perfect video ad to reach your intended audience while making the most of your advertising dollars. Call 1-800-706-6538 or visit starcom.net to contact our Star Communications production team and get your business moving to the next level.
The average American household has 17 devices connected to the internet. With more and more devices able to get online, you may need to increase your internet speed. Call Star Communications today and let us help you select the package that's right for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you again for being with us today. The name of the show is We Should Know. I'm JW Simmons, your host. We're talking about education today. And we're talking with someone that's been involved in education all kinds of levels. As folks sometimes tune in on the radio, they'll hear me introduce somebody, and I'll introduce you 2 or 3 times because I want to make sure they just hadn't turned the radio on and they're listening to the show. But Dr. Johnson, you've seen it from multiple sides, from the floor of the classroom to the top of the boardroom. And today, as we went to break, we were talking about that huge arena now that exists between public education, colleges, and universities to offer people a platform of success. And it simply lacks one thing. And I don't know how, and we might need to pause and have a prayer, but I don't know how to get them there. The idea that you have to have the motivation to reach out, to step up, and board the ship, because if you don't get on, you can't help it.
Yeah, I agree. You know, we were talking earlier about the great equalizer.
Yes.
That was the word we used.
Yes.
And we said the great equalizer in America is education. And so I think about, you were telling some stories about used to be in the tobacco field.
Absolutely.
And, I was raised, my parents were divorced for a good long time, and I was raised by my aunt and my grandparent. I'm a first generation college student.
Yeah.
And to think about, things that you can accomplish in America with education. And education doesn't mean a university education, you know. And so when you were talking, the first thing that came to my mind was, you know, we used to think about this kindergarten through 12th grade program. Right. We don't even really refer to it. Like when we talk now, when educators talk now, it's kind of a pre-K through 16. Mm-hmm. So we think about the importance of proper early education, mm-hmm. that you receive in pre-K or really good early elementary programs. And you think about the elementary, you think about your middle schools, your high schools, think about your community colleges, your universities, your programs that you earn credentials in. That's become a huge word, mm-hmm. Since I've been in the field, that we try to get students credentials before they even graduate and receive a diploma, mm-hmm. so that they have a skill that they can do, a living skill that they can earn a living wage, mm-hmm. to do for many years. And so again, in our rural community, those credentials a lot of times can be even more important than a paper diploma. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important that we give students an array of options and resources that they can do to be successful as they continue on into life.
One of the things that's happening, and I think has happened, and it's been there, it's being magnified day by day, and that's the relationship with public schools and community colleges, and far as that goes, four-year colleges as well. The amplifying factor of that is the skills level training that is at this point continuing to be less and less available, and people are saying, well, why can't we get someone? You talk to an average plumber, and they, you know, and I talk to these people all the time. Not that I'm always having plumbing problems, but I talk to them because I, want to know what's going on. And they tell me, I had one recently tell me, listen, I'm at the point that, I'm ready to retire. I'm not going to continue to, quote, crawl under houses, but I can't even get anybody to consider an apprentice. He said, I've tried and nobody don't even want to come in. And we're talking jobs that often can easily render 6-digit income.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, that's a difficult, really thought there. But we talked about earlier, and when you and I were off camera talking about the graying of America.
Absolutely.
And so you're seeing a lot of these skills types jobs kind of go away. We're sitting in a room that has bricks.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the bricks and I'm thinking of masonry.
Absolutely.
And in some of these skills that if you can teach to individuals, I was talking to a girl at a softball game the other day. She graduated with my daughter. My daughter's a freshman, and this young lady is doing plumbing. And I was thinking, what a great skill, to have and to learn as a 19-year-old female, that you're going to learning a trade, she said, from her mother's boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And he owns the company. And I'm like, well, stay right there, keep working hard. But this work ethic that we talked about a little bit earlier is vital. And when you teach the skills to these individuals that have that work ethic, they're going to do wonderful, great things. But and you've seen that. So one of the things that I've seen, because these things always come back in education. Sure. They're always, cyclical. Mm-hmm. But you think about at one time, kind of when I was coming into education, there was a more varied CTE approach. And then in the early 2000s, everybody's got to have a 4-year degree. Everybody's got to have a 4-year degree. That's unrealistic and it's not attainable. Right. But now more, as I just said earlier, it's these credentials, is these skill-based trades that we've got to be teaching, because as you said, it's just difficult to find these people.
It is, and I think one of the things that, for example, Barney Grady at the community college and Dr. Bill Starling, the president, can sit here where you're sitting, and we can have this conversation, and we have had it, but the doors are wide open. The opportunities exist. There's something, and I'm going to put this word out, and it's probably the hardest thing I know is how do you, quote, motivate a person to step up early enough in life to seek and hold the opportunity of ending up at a great place in life. And the graying of America, folks like me and others can certainly attest that the younger you start, the more blessed you get as you go through life.
Yeah. So I think about something I heard recently. I was listening to a podcast, and the guy says you learn two ways. You learn from others, or you learn from experience.
Correct.
And so if you learn from experience that, getting out of high school and trying to start in a job that's not a long-term or career-based job, and you get stuck in that job and it becomes a mundane, you should have learned a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. So I think some of that, it leads to this, what you were talking about by motivation.
Sure.
And so I think a lot of our individuals and our different demographic groups are motivated by the jobs that they see their parents doing, and that they know how hard their parents are having to work really today in today's economy just to keep food on the table. Mm-hmm. And so if they learn that at an early age and see the importance of education to in all types of education, that they can find skills and trades and whatever it may be. Some of them just may be really good at reading books and learning, to utilize that to get diplomas and credentials. Then that can help them to find those jobs that are more living wages, that they can raise a family and do better things with.
Are we talking about it? And I think you maybe will agree. If we reflect back after World War II, and we had this huge influx of people that were looking something to do. They were looking for skills. They were trying to find out how to make things happen and fix stuff and all this. And the high schools had something called T&I, trade and industry jobs. And this is, I'm reaching way back now, but can we learn from our history how to correct the trajectory of our future?
Well, I mean, that's what every good social studies teacher tells you.
Absolutely.
Every good social studies teacher tells you have to study history so you don't repeat the same mistakes.
Absolutely.
And so, I believe so. I think that we have to look at our country. Of course, our country's still fairly a new nation, and look at the different things that our country has been through. And also, they say you try to read the tea leaves of where we're going. Mm-hmm. But again, the importance of education has always been, there in our country. We believe in the American way, that you can work hard, and that if you work hard, you're going to, amass things that you need in our country. So, as I said earlier, I'm a first generation college kid, that learned how to do school pretty well. And I've been in school now for a long time.
Absolutely.
Either learning or in the classroom, or still learning now as a superintendent. So you just have to find those things that you feel that you're called to do, work real hard in those areas, and, keep digging is what I like to say.
One of the things I think as well, and of course recently, I guess everybody's aware, we had Economic Development Forum that talked a lot about the demographics and those kinds of things, which, I thought was very interesting. But the reality was this idea of what draws people to certain areas of the state. And certainly education and educators make a huge difference in where someone wants to live. Sometimes it's environment, of course, salt water and breezes off the ocean is one thing. I used to think the mountains, I'm not really sure now after Helena,
right.
But it's like, that's a critical key. But oftentimes people will get the wrong information about a school system. How important is it for you to make sure the right PR is out there?
Well, that's vital. I've got board members that talk to me about it basically every day, about the importance of making really good first impressions. And so not only first impressions, but lasting impressions is what we try to do. We definitely are working hard in Clinton City Schools for the needs of all of our students. And we try to keep a student focused approach, but also remembering the rich traditions and histories that Clinton City has as well. But just keeping focused on the students, keeping focused on their needs, keeping focused on, as you said, the changing demographics, as we talked about earlier in a different segment. We have our community's changing. We have right now, currently, the number one demographic group at all 5 of my schools is Hispanic Latino. So we can't continue to educate the students the same way we did in the early 1980s, because they're different students.
Absolutely.
It's different times.
Absolutely.
We have to look at what the times, we talked earlier off camera about AI and how AI is changing the platform platform of America and changing the different things. So you have to find jobs and roles and tasks that are going to be around. One of the biggest paying jobs right now in America is AI engineering.
Absolutely.
And so we got to work hard.
We're going to take a break. When we come back to the last part of the show, I got several different little bullet points I want to touch you with. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're coming up on the last part of the show. We're talking about education, particularly public education, right here in this area. Call a friend. Stay tuned.
Providing fewer commutes, more backyard offices, and crystal clear meetings. Providing less, you froze up, and more presence in your presentations. Providing a better internet experience. Providing possible.
Hey guys, Sydney and Jesse here from At the Table.
Are you enjoying the show?
We want to hear from you. We have a quick survey where you can tell us things you've learned, recipes you've tried, and how the show has impacted you. You'll be entered into a grand prize drawing. Check out our link or scan the QR code for more info.
Thank you for tuning in and cooking with us at the table.
Ready to start fresh? Continue your journey? Or explore something entirely new? At Sampson Community College, we're here to help you begin here and go anywhere. With flexible schedules, affordable tuition, and programs designed for your success, there's no better place to reach your goals. Registration for Fall 2025 is open March 31st through April 17th. Expand your horizons today. Sampson Community College. Your future starts here.
We find in life that some things just go together. Like peanut butter and jelly, cheese and crackers, steak and potatoes, and of course, milk and cookies. But the bottle and the throttle are never a good combination. Be smart. Be safe. Be responsible. Don't drink and drive.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on there. I'm JW Simmons, your host. We're coming up on the last part of the show. Today, I want to remind you, you can reach us via email, weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. That's weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And keep in mind, for those folks that are just, you just don't want to stay on social media, you don't want to use the computer, I get it. Drop us a note. Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. Just put on there WSK. That'll take care of it. I'll pick it up, read it. I appreciate your input. A lot of the shows we have, a lot of the conversations with key leaders in this community and other communities we represent throughout the counties we serve is coming from you. So please continue to reach out. And yes, it is very well accepted. If I'm out in the community somewhere, please stop me and say, listen, I saw so-and-so. I appreciate those comments. Even if I didn't ask the question you wanted, I appreciate your input. So thank you for being with us today. Let's get back to the subject matter today, which is education. Dr. Johnson, it's always part of human nature that we have to be educated. Now, somebody, before they disagree with that, I want to make sure that that broad statement is broad enough, because one way or the other, we're going to be educated. We either get into a structured education system, public, private, otherwise, or life will educate us. Mm-hmm. And 20%, last count I saw, somewhere in that range, 20% of folks is in a correctional institution somewhere. So oftentimes life does not teach us the kind of education that we need, that we could have averted if we'd have listened to the right people. Your comment.
Yeah, I think about it. It actually came from a video game that I used to play as a kid growing up. But when the game would come on, it had this little caption that said, "All learning is power."
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, when we learn, when we seek to learn, when we seek to understand, not just learning, but when we seek to understand, we gain power. Not power over individuals, but power over our circumstances. Power over the circumstances that we've been born into. Power over circumstances that have been created against us. And we always have factors or mitigating things that are trying to come against us. But if we seek to understand, if we seek to learn, if we seek to grow and to gain from our situations, we're going to come out in the end better than where we were started. So I think it's vital. I think education is so important, and all types of education is vital to adult success.
Absolutely. And I'm always so honored I can have folks like you and others come in that understand informing and educating is a key component of our free society.
Right.
So let me hit you with a couple of things that you know is happening on the landscape now, and one of those that is always there. I think we might have touched on this last time you were here. Is this whole idea of school choice? We first started out when we heard that years ago. It talked about, well, do I want to go to Clinton City Schools, or can I apply and go, somewhere else? That kind of thing. But now we know what the other opportunities are, and the number of private charter schools and private schools tend to be growing in the state. Give us your thoughts on that and where we're headed.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Broad picture.
Broad picture. Well, of course, school choice is something that is favorable right now in North Carolina based on our current legislative, system that we have set up here in our state, and it's become a growing trend across the state. What are my concerns with it? I think when it first came out, it was for getting back to this disadvantaged opportunities for all students to have an equal education. Again, as we've said, I think in the first or second segment, both of us theorized that that's not even possible. That's right. But a thing that school choice has come to now is there is no income gap. Anybody can qualify for an opportunity, apply for a voucher. It doesn't matter if you make $1 million a year. And so what has occurred is a lot of the students that are now utilizing vouchers, they've never been public education students. They've always been students at these private and Christian schools. And again, that's great, but that was not what school choice was originally designed for. And I always like to look at original design when you're talking about things. It was really designed for students of low income and students in difficult situations where maybe their public schools are not meeting the needs, would have opportunities to attend these institutions to where they could get a better education.
I'm going to check that off under this comment that school choice is about choice, but at the same time, it's about a person understanding that it's not necessarily the results that oftentimes you're looking for. So right. I guess that would work. So the other thing that's a button now that I think the legislature is even possibly looking at a law putting in place, and that's cell phones in schools. Oh, yeah. Give us your spin on that one.
Yeah, I mean, so I was actually sharing with you that we created what's called Notebook LM, which is an AI podcast, and you have to put the notes in. So there's two actual current bills, one in the Senate and one in the House, that discusses cell phones and the banning of cell phones in schools. And cell phones are now banned in South Carolina during the school day, of course. Sure. And there are different ways to make that happen. Of course, I am a product of a generation where we didn't have a cell phone in our hands when we went to school. And so, does cell phones, are they distracting? Yes, as I'm sitting here talking to you, my watch is beeping, my phone is beeping, and so that is distracting. Does that change, my ability to concentrate? Maybe not, but because I'm not from that generation. Right. I'm also raising children that are from that generation. And I can tell you that cell phones, in my opinion, are distracting. I do think that in the right context and with the right parameters, we can put policies and procedures in place to limit cell phone use without a law. Mm-hmm. So we talked earlier about the importance of local decision making.
Absolutely.
And I think that as we think about the totality of education in America, and we go from the national level to the state level to the local level, I just think that local people, local taxpayers, local voters should be really driving the decisions of what's going on in their public schools, and not laws and legislation. Mm-hmm. Let the locals decide the policies and the procedures of their institutions.
And it seems as though what I've heard from a lot of folks, if you get into the legality, legislative decision making, then you become a statutory issue. So you violated a state law rather than a school regulation, which is a bit different as far as the mark on that person's life.
Yeah, I mean, because, legislators make laws, but those then are interpreted at the local level. Mm-hmm. And the local level has to determine the policies that they're going to put into place. Absolutely. So again, it's going to be decided at the local level anyway. And just like when it comes to my mind is seatbelts. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, we didn't have to wear a seatbelt.
That's right.
But now we do. And seatbelts are important. They save lives. But again, if that became a law, we would follow it in Clinton City Schools, and I think we would do a good job with it. But it's going to be different in all the different contexts of where there's actually 115 different public school districts in North Carolina. It would be a little bit different in all 115 school districts.
I dreaded these last few questions I've got here, but this one is pretty big, and I'm going to toss it out because I want to get it in. We got about 2 minutes here. So that the whole question of teacher and principal pay, that's come up in multiple times. It's come up in economic development discussions and everything else, but that is a core piece going forward. How do we adjust that? How do we ensure that we're getting the talent that we need? And how do we ensure that something's not being pushed back by very talented people that says, I just can't live with that salary?
Well, you got me on a very passionate topic here at the end. I'll do my best to get done in 2 minutes. I meant to do that
because I don't want to, we could talk the rest of the day.
I'm married to an educator.
There you go.
My wife's been a public education teacher for 25 years. Our oldest daughter is studying to be a public education teacher. I believe, if I think clearly on this, we're the 48th state in North Carolina when it comes to teacher pay, especially beginning teacher pay. Mm-hmm. That is abysmal. We've got to do more to educate, to inspire people who want to go in when they can't see it as a living wage. And we have many teachers who start teaching having to have second and third jobs. Then they can't plan appropriately. They can't develop lessons for our kids because they're having to leave their local schools and go work at Walmart or go work at the convenience store because they don't have enough money to go home and put food on their table and food for their family. So we need to pay our teachers and pay our principals so that they have more time to develop good and appropriate lessons for our kids.
And I think for folks, as we come to close here, maybe need to think about it. What are you willing to pay somebody to help shape and mold the future of your child's life?
Amen.
And that's critical to the conversation. Dr. Johnson, if you had one thing you want to leave, we got about 30 seconds. If you want to leave people, parents, teachers, and others out there, what's the one thing you want to leave them with today?
The importance and the vital importance of public education. We do so much than just educate our young people. We provide them with a warm place to come to school, a cool place to come to school. We provide food on their table. If they have questions, reach out to me. I'll be glad to talk with them about anything.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Dr. Wesley Johnson, the background in Sampson County, grew up here, understands the folks here, and I would say that if anybody is recognizable, this guy is in the community. So stay tuned. We look forward to seeing you again next week right here, and may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host JW Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.